won't be there.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know if it was something in the screen. Oh, no, it's not.
In case you published the podcast in there.
There's something on the camera. Is that? Do I need to move it?
No, don't move it. Multitasking, Kate.
You've got to love motorway services. Oh,
No.
She's not knit two. She's just holding one up than the other. But you can see it.
You won't be able to, honey. No, you won't be able to. Oh, what's that bit? Ribbing. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah, it was Susan B. Anderson. Split back snowflake hat. And
things get chopped down and moved around when things are edited. I want us to get that a little bit closer to your face.
2 pieces. Oh no.
I have 2 pieces.
That's true.
Mine are just joined.
Yes. Is it close enough now?
Yeah. Might as well just go then.
Let's go. Peter. Sorry.
I'll just have a stretch.
Shall I do welcome? Welcome to episode 91 of the Bakery Bears podcast. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You're doing what I do.
Yeah, I know.
Right. Marvellous.
Well, I can't believe it. It's 2018.
Yes.
And it's odd, isn't it? There's always a funny feeling, I think, at the start of a new year. And I don't know if do you feel that too sometimes? You feel a little bit lost when the first sort of few days of the year, and we've been talking about that a lot actually, just over the Christmas period, talking about whether it might be a good idea to go away just over that period right over New Year.
Next year.
Who knows?
This year.
Yeah, this year, I know.
I do this, look, you do
funny.
this all the time. You know, you say next year, but it's not now next year, it's this year.
Yeah.
That always confuses me for a little bit.
Yeah. So, yeah, have you been feeling a little bit lost? Well, don't. Not anymore, because we're back.
We're back.
And we have a brand new year of Bakery Bears fun and games in store.
Wow.
Oh, yes. But there is some unfinished business.
Is there?
There's lots of prize drawing coming.
Yes.
At the end of the show.
We had three knit-alongs finishing at the end of last year. So I'm going to do all the prizes for those in Endy Bits. So if you entered any of the Merry Mittmas knit-along, the Toy knit-along or the Fog-along knit-along, then prizes are going to be in Endy Bits.
Cool. And, you know, speaking about things ending, because it's a new year, so many things are beginning. And that's when you start to feel, don't you, like the year's getting going. And I think you go from, I don't know what you think, Kay, and I'm not sure at what moment that feeling changes, where you go from feeling a little bit lost and unsure to, yes, we're off now.
I'm still kind of in that
Yeah, me too.
early year.
Yeah, funk.
Yeah,
Yes.
It is a bit of a funk, isn't it? I think we
Perhaps
must
the
all
weather
feel
has
like
something
that.
to do with it.
Weather's dreadful, absolutely dreadful at the minute.
Murky.
Very murky.
And sometimes icy.
I don't know if there's actually a sun out there anywhere today.
No, I
And
know.
it was the same yesterday. It's
Yeah.
like it's the middle of the night all day.
Very strange.
And your days don't last very long, and
No.
I think it's just that January blues.
Yes.
Is that a thing?
Yes.
I think it probably is.
Oh, it is, definitely.
Yeah.
But there's so many things starting. There's so many things started. The 1st of January. They climb every mountain.
Yes.
Yes.
And we've got finished objects already.
That's brilliant. Now, I paused. I didn't say what comes after climbing a mountain because, of course, there's 2 things running. There's the Climb Every Mountain Run, which is also a walk, of course. And there's the Climb Every Mountain Cal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that got started on the 1st of January. And do you know what? It does feel, I'm excited about, do you know, secretly I would love, I know it's really dangerous.
To climb a mountain? To climb Everest? No.
If someone gave
Don't
me...
be bonkers.
No, I'm not being bonkers.
I wouldn't climb. I'm not a risk
Genuinely,
taker.
if someone said to me, I think I'd struggle to say no.
To climb Everest?
Yeah.
I wouldn't let you go.
Well, that's
Don't
fine
be
because
ridiculous.
no one's going to say it.
You can climb Mount Snowdon or something like that, but you're not going up
Well,
Everest.
maybe that. I tell you what, I once did.
Don't be stupid.
I once did I went up the one in the lakes that's got Striding Edge,
Right.
and it was really, really misty. I can't remember which one it is. Is it Hellbarrow? Climbing up, and not been up it before, and it was all misty, and the mist cleared, and we were right on Striding Edge.
Oh.
And
Was it really high?
Oh no!
Get on! I won't be doing that.
It was terrifying.
Is it sheer? Was it like that? Or 'cause
It's
I
not
imagine-
sheer,
you
but
say edge. I imagine it to be like that, and you're walking across.
that
this
is exactly what it is. You know, if you fell, it wouldn't be good.
No, I'm not good. I'm not good at all with heights, so I couldn't do that.
When you're, but you see, the thing is though,
It wouldn't be the walking of and the climbing of it. It would be the height thing.
when you get to a certain height, it disappears. It dissipates. I don't think your brain realizes. You know, there's a height which you can imagine falling from, and then you get above that height, and it's like just this lovely views all the way around.
Not for me. I don't.
You don't really stop and think, don't trip. And of course, I mean, talk about a new year and lots of exciting things happening, because of course this is the year when we shall conquer
Yes.
the Lake District.
Yes.
We're very excited about that.
We are excited about
So
it,
positive.
actually.
I'm so thrilled about that because it is such
I
a
am
short
being very positive about
hop,
it.
skip and a jump and you're there.
I am going to overcome my unfounded,
Yeah.
because it is unfounded,
I
kind
think-
of dislike of the lakes. I'm positive that I'm going to love it.
And of course, our trip to the Lake District will come slap bang in the middle of season 2 of the New Adventures of the Bakery Bears. And we will, of course, be filming one of our episodes whilst we're over that way as we go searching for Peter Rabbit, which is so exciting. So, again, we're talking about the new year and so many things to look forward to. The new season, the New Adventures of the Bakery Bears. But also, as well, this is the year you launched your Platinum Collection
Yes.
on the 24th of December, and it's been so lovely to see all those All Is Calm socks.
It's been really,
appearing.
really brilliant. And
Thank you to all the patrons who as well
thank you
messaged and
so
said how much
much.
they've enjoyed
Because
knitting those.
that was lovely. So, I mean, there'll be another sock pattern coming out in March, the second one. And
Yes.
I've already got it planned in my head what I'm going to do.
So the next of the
So
Platinum
that's
Collection
exciting.
patterns available to Gold Plus patrons will be arriving in March, which is super exciting. There's just a little bit of slightly more pressing unfinished business.
Yes.
And that is, on the last podcast episode, I'm sure it was the last one, or was it the one before? I think it was the last one where I did my Hey Bert impression.
Was it the last one?
Yeah. Now, two things stemmed from, I can't even remember why I went Hey Bert,
No, I don't remember either.
but two things happened after that. And the first thing is this. I was editing the podcast, and I think I must have got to the bit where I said, Hey Bert, and something fired off in my head. And I thought, I need to look at my family tree.
Oh, this is funny.
And I went to look at my family tree, and I didn't, do you know what? Do you know when you have to go and do something, and I didn't know why I had to go do it? I couldn't work out what the link was, but I knew that Bert was linking me to my family tree. So I went and looked at my family tree and looked back through my mum's side, and there I found my grandma. Mm-hmm. And her two brothers' names were Bert and Ernie.
How cool is that? Because they are old-fashioned names.
Herbert
So
and Ernest.
it's not surprising. They are, that kind of older-fashioned name that's very popular again now, I think.
So I am literally related
To Bert and Ernie.
to Bert and Ernie. Can you see the likeness? Hey, Bert. Now, that also linked me to something else, and that is someone said my Ernie impression sounded like Mr. Bean.
You do Mr. Bean all
But
the
I
time.
do Mr. Bean, and I've been asked to do Mr. Bean.
Oh, no, really?
So it might take me a couple of goes because you have to do a funny thing with your voice. But Kay, so could you ask me where am I going?
Where are we going?
To the beach. Bean, Sabine. Bean, Sabine, bean, Sabine, bean, Sabine.
That's a great film. It is a film, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's
What's it called?
Mr. Bean's Holiday.
Mr. Bean's Holiday. It's
the
hilarious.
sweetest thing. He's the sweetest man ever.
He is really sweet.
When Sabine says to him, where are you going? He goes, to the beach. And he's drawn that lovely little picture. He's like, oh.
He just wants to go to the beach.
Yes, right.
And he has these whole traumas to get there, honestly. It's terrible. It's quite tragic.
But to get the year started, we have our now infamous Knitting Horizons show for you today. Now, this is the year, and we invite you to join us in doing this because this is fun. We found this great fun last year, and also I think it gives your in anything you're doing, it gives it structure.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a little bit of structure, it's fine to break outside.
I failed miserably.
You didn't.
I kind of did.
Well, no, you didn't. But that's all last year. We dealt with all of that.
But I suppose it doesn't matter, does it? If you're giving it a go and...
Yeah, the point is, you tried. It was brioche.
Oh, I tried the brioche.
Yeah. So, and colourwork too.
And colourwork.
And, so it's cool because I think it's about, there's no issue setting a horizon, trying it out and it not being for you. You'd sort of be a bit silly if you set yourself a horizon, tried it out, didn't like it, but still carried on with it anyway.
But I say that about brioche, but, I mean, the whole thing with brioche really led me into the bits and bobs blanket.
We have to talk about, before we can get cracking with the show properly, we need to talk about what went on between the last time we saw you and now. In fact, the last time you saw us was the day, as we told you, that we were visiting
the Harry Potter studio, Warner Brothers Studios, the Harry Potter Studios at Leavesden. You know where we mean.
Yeah.
So yes, we were there the day that podcast came out.
Yes. Yeah, and don't worry, we're not going to, talk about this long at all.
No.
But I think it's interesting to know the challenges which arose just getting there.
It was awful what happened. I was already, so the day before we left, I was already kind of anxious, wasn't I? I always am when we're going anywhere. And then around tea time, so around 4:00, I got an email from the hotel that we were staying in. Now, I'd booked that hotel back in August, and I'd specifically booked that hotel, one, because it was very close to the studios, and two, because I could get connecting rooms. I searched, it took me ages to search for this very specific thing that I wanted, forward planning, all of that. Found it, connecting rooms, no problem, very close to the studios. Excellent. They emailed me, like I said, 4:00 the day before we were going, to say that they'd had an issue overnight with the connecting door. Previous occupant had decided to break the door down between the interconnecting rooms. The second thing she said was that they had fixed the door, however, they'd had to seal it shut while the glue dried or something, I don't know.
So that raises a few concerns as to, while the glue dried,
do
I want to be in a room which normally, hotel rooms don't have the best ventilation?
No.
With lots of glue drying?
Yeah, so she said the rooms were still, apologised and everything, said the rooms were still perfectly usable, that, you'd have 2 keys, blah, 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 all this business. Well, of course, it just set me off on a complete, anxiety meltdown. I said, what are we going to do? I said, I really want connecting rooms. I wanted this to be a special trip. I'd done everything I possibly could to ensure that was the case, forward planning and everything. And I just felt like, I was like, oh, I can't believe it. I said, there's no way I'm going to have 2 separate rooms in this hotel where somebody's battered down the door in between the rooms to start off with. So you rang up, I was too upset to speak to the hotel. So you spoke to them, didn't you? You rang this woman that had emailed and spoke to her. She was very nice and very helpful. And what she said she would do is ring round a few hotels in the area, because we had tried to find one, hadn't we?
Yeah.
Couldn't find anything, obviously very short notice. So she said she would ring round a few hotels. So she rang us back only sort of half an hour later and said that she found one. It was within their group. It was like a group. They were Mercure. It was one of their hotels, and it was only 10 minutes away. Had interconnecting rooms, all the facilities were the same as what we booked, and actually it was cheaper. So we got up the next morning, didn't we? Got ready. We needed to be away by 9.
I had to move the car so that we could put things in the boot.
Yeah.
And I didn't, because our car is a diesel, I didn't give the coils time to warm up. So that really hammered the battery. And normally, historically, that's never been a problem before. Although I'm not in the habit of doing that.
And it was very cold overnight as well.
Well, that was the point. Because it was so cold, it has a tendency to affect the batteries a little bit. So I moved the car forward, started fine, and then we all got in the car and turned the key, wouldn't start. I knew straight away what the problem was.
It was the battery.
I knew straight away that it was the battery. So,
Well, I was literally having a panic attack in the car, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And Dan was saying to me, look, just go into the house and sit down for 5 minutes. And I'm like, I don't want to go into the house. What are we going to do? I was like this. So me and Bryony got out of the car, went in the house. We came and sat in the kitchen. And then you, luckily...
Well, I knew what I needed. I needed someone who either had another car and jump leads, or, I mean, to be honest, that's what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking that I would find someone with a massive, huge battery with loads of power and a set of jump leads that had been used many times before that looked completely new. And that's what I found, because one of our neighbours is ex-military, and so he keeps everything absolutely perfect.
Amazing. You should see his garage.
And he's the most...
Unbelievable.
I would say he's probably the most prepared man I've ever met.
Yeah.
I think any situation that you were in, he would have a solution for you. So I just happened to see his wife appeared out. He lives just a few doors down from us. So I trundled down and just said, oh, is he up? And could he give me a hand getting the car started? And she said, oh, no, he's not up, but I'm sure he'll get up to help.
So we got him out of bed.
So we got him out of bed, and, lo and behold, into his garage we go, and, not a speck of dust. And he pulls out these jump leads, and I said, oh, are they new? Crumbs, are you getting those out just for me? He says, oh, no, I've had them ages. And he said, would you believe it? I think I've got a battery around the back from a tractor or something or other. So it's got loads of juice in it, so I'll just bring that over. So he brought that over, checked the battery, made sure everything was fine. It was. Hooked it up, started first time, job done.
The first stop where we just stopped to use the loo, I said, I'm just too nervous for you to turn the engine off at the minute. So we didn't. You stayed in the car. But then the second place we stopped for lunch. So it's like, right, we've been going 2 hours now. It'll be absolutely fine. It will have charged up. And it was fine.
Yeah.
But... that first time when he turned the engine back on, I was like, oh my God, I was so anxious. I can't even tell you. I could barely eat my lunch. I was so worried about it.
Well, it was so cold that night too, when I
well
went to turn the car over the next morning.
It was well below freezing, wasn't it? Yeah, and...
It did bother me slightly, but, we got...
But it was totally fine, and it was completely fine, and it's been fine ever since, It's just one of those things. But we got there.
And
we did it.
We did. And this is what we saw. wasn't that lovely? Now,
It was fabulous.
what I enjoyed about the tour was, I'll be honest, I'm not a great lover of Harry Potter.
No.
Because, I've said this before, but I feel that the films have an undercurrent of... I come away feeling... I watch Fantastic Beasts and I come away with a feeling of hope.
Yeah.
I watched Harry Potter and I come away with a feeling of
Doom.
It's just me. But what I enjoyed about it was, and I didn't really anticipate this, and I've tried to get that across in just that little film that you watched, it's how a film is put together. So from the model, which was used for all the flyover shots, to the sets, to the costumes, some of the bits that I didn't put in, because we just want to give you just a short glimpse, rather than us just waffling on saying, oh, we saw this, that and the other, and wasn't it marvellous? You've now seen the highlights really too. But there were things like the draftsman who drew up the models, prior to the sets being made, seeing that process and understanding that process. Because I think, as you've probably learned, if you've watched the podcast a little while, I've become quite obsessed with the production of movies and films in general. So seeing how that was done did make me super interested. And I think we both agreed what a wonderful industry it must be to work in.
I know, yeah. And Bryony has said for a while that she's always drawn from being really little, and she got this thing in her head now that she's going to be an architect. And I think I said, gosh, when we saw all these sort of, because it is an architect that designed everything, and I said, oh, you could do something like that. And she's like, oh, I could.
It's amazing.
So it was brilliant inspiration for children, I think, as well. The whole visit was great inspiration.
There's so many elements to it which make it really interesting, from costumes, how they were put together, to animatronics and how they created the different animals.
And I think Bryony found what she most enjoyed was just seeing the actual costumes, that people wore, that her favourite characters wore, and.
But all in all,
it was fantastic.
It is a bit expensive.
It's expensive. I was just about to say that. You really need to be prepared. Tickets are expensive, and everything in there is expensive. I'm not going to lie.
We won't be doing it again.
No, it's unlikely. The food is very expensive. There are 2 cafes that you can go to, and we did have to have some lunch there, because we couldn't have brought it. If I could have taken some food, then I would have done that, because it cost us like £30 for lunch.
Did it?
Yeah.
My
30,
goodness.
I think it was £35 for lunch.
For 3 sandwiches and a little salad.
But for hardly anything, really,
Yeah, so, all in all, whether you like the film or not,
I would say that.
I'm not aware of any other place like that.
No, I've never been to anywhere like it.
Which, properly gives you the lowdown on how movies are made.
Just seeing, you take your children, just seeing their reaction to things. You can't put money on that. Just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil, I will be doing, because we got an awful lot more footage, so I plan to do a more detailed video, which I'll be putting out for patrons sometime towards the end of this month. But, if you really fancy seeing that, it'd be good, if you're a podcast patron and you really, really want me to do that, then just pop a note on, because that'll just then push me on a little bit more. It's time for us to finally find out. Kay Jones, what's on your needle?
The first thing I'm knitting is a sock, but it's the Dancing Dog Dye Works twist sock, and it's the gingerbread houses. So, gingerbread houses, Dancing Dog Dye Works. And this is the one that's just 100% merino. And I said last time that I was dubious about making socks in it because there's no nylon, but actually it's a fantastic sock yarn. I think. Obviously I don't know how it's going to wear. Just the feel of it feels very hard wearing. It's a lovely tight twist, so I don't think I'm going to have any issues at all. And I've finished one of the socks. It's so pretty. I haven't blocked it yet. You can see that's my magic loop line down there. It's not a ladder. It's more like it's a little bit tight, but it always blocks out. I'd rather it be a little bit tight and it block out than you have an actual ladder, which I think you struggle to block out a ladder. That's the first sock done. And I did a traditional heel flap and gusset, and I got away with it. The reason that I was happy to do it is because these are quite thick stripes. I did lose, I think, just one row on this stripe here. I don't think you can really tell. If it had been thinner stripes, and I think that's when it really disrupts the stripes and you can really tell. But because these were nice thick stripes, I think there's like 8 or 9 rows, it was completely fine. And I used Regia, just one of my first Regia little tiny balls for the heels and toes. And it's just a pink 01810. And I just thought that brought out the pink in the stripes. And then I just improvised this toe. I've been playing around with a few things lately, and one is the toe, and I really like the way that this came out. And I've used it a few times now, and it produces this lovely round toe. And I'll show you the other way as well, because it's equally, because you don't wear your socks that way, do you? You wear them that way. So it produces this really nice rounded toe. And it's one where you decrease at several points around, you know, instead of just on the edges. And the other benefit of this sort of toe, I think, is that you don't get those, you can sometimes get ladders, can't you?
Yes.
Either side, and it can become a weak point in your toe, I think. But doing it this way, you've not got those weak points. So I kind of think this might be a stronger kind of toe. And I think it's very pretty. Really nice to work. So yes, I finished that one.
It's like a hat decrease.
It is like a hat decrease. Yeah, but I did find several kind of patterns, if you like, on, you know, just Googling. But they were all a bit long. I didn't like how long the toe came out. So I just kind of made this one up. I think it worked out really nicely because I liked the length of this. The other ones were just too long of a toe.
And then I'm guessing there was no Kitchener on the end.
Well, there shouldn't be traditionally, but I did Kitchener at the end. I think I had 8 stitches left, and normally you would just pull those through.
But that's weak.
I don't like doing that on a sock toe because, again, I think there's a chance that could, you know, as you wear them, it could unravel. So I just Kitchenered the last 8 stitches. And, it, you know, I don't know if you can see right on the very toe. There, look, it's Kitchenered, and I think that's a much more secure way of doing it. So, yeah, but I really like this toe, and I like it because I don't know if it's quicker to work. It's about the same number of rows as my sort of standard wedge toe, but it just seemed a bit more relaxing to knit somehow because it's just a different way of doing it, and you don't have to pay quite so much attention, I don't think, with this sort of toe. So I finished that one, and then I've cast on the second. I cast it on straight away actually, and then knit this just in one night. And I've managed to match them. I'm not normally bothered about matching socks at all, but these just called to me to be matched. But I've managed to match them, I think, pretty much exactly, which is very pleasing. So I've got that one started. And did you see, look at my little, oh.
That's very festive.
Oh, look at that. Can you see it?
It looks like a bauble.
Oh, it does look like a bauble. I'll just be using it all year. It's full of little stars.
Feels a bit weird.
It's not weird. I'll be using it all the time. It's from Jules, lovely Jules at So Sweet Violet. She sent me.
Oh, it's a lovely bauble.
I absolutely love it. So I'm using it all the time. I'm not bothered whether it looks Christmassy or not.
That's funny because you like to get the Christmas tree down on Boxing Day.
I know, but I don't think it looks particularly festive.
No, well, yes, it does.
And it's not very heavy, which, you know, is brilliant. I'd seen Jules post a picture of these and I thought, oh, they're so pretty. I expected it to be heavier, and it's really not. You know, it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I mean, what I use these for is probably the same thing everybody else does, really, I think. But it tells me which is the front and which is the back. I mean, you can tell anyway with your tail, but it's just a quicker way of knowing which is your front and your back. But then also, I use it to count my rows because I do count rows when I'm knitting socks. And I make a note. I've got like a sock diary. So I've made a note of exactly how many rows, even though this is more sort of ends on a stripe kind of thing, so that I know how many rows I need to do on my leg and how many on the foot. And then every 10 rows I move this up so that I don't have to recount all of the rows each time I want to count them. Dan Jones,
Yes.
what's on your needles?
First time
this
this
is
year.
lovely.
Isn't that nice? First time in 2018.
Yes.
And it was seamless. Just like
I aim to please.
this jumper.
Just like this jumper. It's a very good transition. Well done. You'll be pleased with yourself.
Look at this. Look at this.
Look at that.
Isn't it lovely?
Wow.
That actually looks bigger now, holding it up like that, than it did last night when I was knitting on it.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't feel quite so big. Maybe it's because I'm seeing it
You've got it stretched out. I
in
mean,
the light.
normally you knit. Yeah. You don't. Yeah.
But it's the Samantha jumper. I can't remember who it's by. Now, of course, I'll be
Amy.
linking. Go on in. Let's see if she gets it right.
Amy Miller.
Oh, yes, there it
Yeah.
is. There it is. There it is. And I had just... I don't think I'd quite finished the oh, what's that bit? Ribbing. I forgot what it was called. I'd not quite finished the ribbing the last time you saw this. And look how much I've done. I mean, I've done double...
You should try and show it. You're in the middle of a... It's really lovely.
I absolutely love the way this pattern's written. It's
You've not have to ask me a single question.
it's perfect.
That's brilliant. I think that.
It's really perfect. You know, there's all sorts going on in this pattern. You know, there's more cables and tricky cables and strange things than I've ever done before. There's decreases and increases for the waist and shaping, and there's all sorts going on, and it's just all there, and you can read it and understand it, and it's over 5 pages. You know,
It's not a lot.
someone else, it would have taken them 10 or 15 pages.
Well, if it's brilliant. If you can understand it, then that's fantastic.
It's a brilliantly written pattern, and that's all you want, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, you
it
just
is.
want, and I still so wish. I wish there was a way of there being some sort of mark on Ravelry when you're looking at patterns,
Yeah.
so that you could see
Well, no, you can't.
a clarity mark.
There is on the right hand side. People can put difficulty rating.
Right, but surely
but
though that can relate to
Yeah.
how hard you found the techniques. Look, this is superb. It's easy to read, and if you fancy knitting a jumper, I would say this is a great one to have a go at. You know, to give you an idea on the background knowledge that I've got is obviously I've already knit the Irish coffee, so I've learnt.
Back down.
So I've learnt about the reading of the charts, and you know what's been so great is moving on to this one is more complex, but because I'd done that all year last year of reading that chart, you sort of got it into your head what the symbols are. I still have a double check, and I did make a couple of mistakes very early on. I don't really know quite what happened.
The cable just went the wrong way.
And I realised that what I'm saying is I don't understand how it happened, because normally you know when you made a mistake, don't you? Well, I didn't, and you know I have been, but I've just been extra, and it's right at the bottom, so you know.
So we decided rather than because you'd have to rip back the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's on the tight little cable, so we decided it's fine.
Every step of this has been fun. You know, it's been fun.
You
and
really enjoyed it, haven't you?
it makes you want to
Have a
knit it,
look.
and you know the pattern that it's creating is great. The yarn is cheap but brilliant.
It is brilliant.
It's brilliant.
We said this before. It's the Drops Alaska.
It's so unbelievably brilliant. I can't even tell you. You know, it's like
It's great yarn.
like,
and,
yes.
I mean, we don't obviously know how it's going to wash or anything, but to knit with, it's just brilliant.
Well, so far at every stage, you know, being able to do the spit splicing is just great.
Yeah.
Because it's going to mean no holes to close.
It's 100% wool, so you can wet splice it, and that's brilliant.
So
And it shows up cables, I think, brilliantly well.
it does. It does.
And this particular colour,
I really feel
it
like
was something like grey pink or something like that. It's colour 40 of the Drops Alaska. It's really heathered. I don't know if it'll transfer across on the screen, but it's really heathered colour. It's really beautiful, and I think, I can't wait to wear it, look.
Well, and look at the progress. I mean, that's insane. Because, I've not been knitting this long at all. No. And that just tells you, doesn't it? You know when you're on the money with something, when you're making progress quickly and it feels really enjoyable. Lovely. If garments are remotely your thing or in your future and you like the look of that, I can tell you that the pattern's written brilliantly and you'll love knitting it. It's the best thing I've ever sat down and read and got on with.
You've read every time he picks it up, he's like, I love this.
It is,
which is great, yeah.
And what's cool about the stitch pattern is each different row is a little bit different. So you're doing slightly different things. And so that keeps it interesting and it keeps it moving on too. And also on the non-cable rounds, because it's quite a complex thing anyway, there's still lots going on. So even on the Irish coffee...
Knitting and purling and things.
On the Irish coffee, the non-cable rounds were just probably just slightly boring.
Right.
On this, they aren't. It's because the cable... The pearl bobs are shifting all over the place. Yeah. Things are moving around. And so it holds your interest. So get some of this yarn.
Absolutely get some of this yarn. Yeah,
and look,
it's cheap as chips and really brilliant.
If you're not knitting it for a lady, perhaps what you could knit is this, which is of course the same yarn. It sounds like this show's been sponsored by Drops Alaska.
It has not been sponsored by Drops.
As you all know so well, we do not take sponsorship. We do not entertain any of it. And the reason why we don't do that is so we can always tell you fact.
Honest opinion, and I hope you know that we always give you honest opinions, good or bad. We always give you honest opinions because not everything is good, is it?
So if
life isn't like that.
If we are waxing lyrical about something, it's because it's superb.
Yeah.
So the Samantha and the Drops Alaska.
Yeah.
It's superb.
So my next project is also in the Drops Alaska.
Is it superb?
And it is, and the colour I'm using is 45. So, Drops Alaska. I got mine from Wool Warehouse in this country, but you can get it, I think, from several places. Colour 45, and mine is light olive, I think mine was called. And I'm knitting the tank top or vest.
Hey, this is cool. I thought you'd be miles ahead of me.
Yeah, I am. I've got 2 pieces. Oh, no.
I have 2 pieces.
That's true.
Mine are just joined.
Yes.
You are ahead of me.
Yeah, a little bit, but I've not knit on this as much as you.
Okay.
Does that make sense? No, I don't want that to sound
the opposite way. You're more productive when you do knit on it.
But this is the vest, the vintage tank top.
Tulle.
Vintage tulle. It's this one. I can't call it anything. We need to give it a name, don't we? I only had 1 piece last time. I've now got 2 pieces that look exactly the same. So I've got 1 piece. Oh, isn't it lovely?
Have you put different coloured stitch markers on so you know which is the front and which is the back?
Well, it doesn't matter. They're exactly the same at this point. 2 pieces. This is going to look like I'm holding the same piece up twice, so I better hold them together. You'll think, she's not knit 2. She's just holding one up than the other. Oh, that's funny. Look, 2.
DOS.
2 pieces.
When DOS become
so they're both exactly the same, so I'll just hold one up. So I've done 1 complete pattern repeat on both pieces, and isn't it lovely? I love double moss stitch.
So do I.
Look at double moss stitch.
Isn't it great?
It produces like what's that called? Where you go one way like that and one way like that.
I've got no idea.
Do you know what I mean? It's like a crossed... Oh, they look like little diamonds, don't they? I mean, it's not. It's just... double moss stitch, if you don't know, you just knit 1, purl 1 for 2 rows, and then purl 1, knit 1 for 2 rows. And so it just offsets, and it just ends up looking like this sort of mesh. Is that the word?
Maybe.
Luckily, I had exactly the same needle. I had 2. I'm using Knit Pro Symphonies, and I had 2 in 4.5mm, so that was brilliant. I didn't need to order another needle or anything. And it's lovely. I'm now at a stage, I think, where I'm very comfortable with the pattern. And I knit this second one, I knit the ribbon in sort of one session, and then I knit this first repeat last Saturday. I just said, right, this is all I'm going to work on, and I think I had the pole pattern repeat done by about tea time, and I'd been knitting it on and off through the day. So it takes me, I think, about 3 hours to do this much. I think I said that last time. I think it is about that. So what I've got to do is basically just knit these 2 pieces up to the armholes, and then one will become the front and one will become the back. So I'm going to sort of do a pattern repeat on one, a pattern repeat on the other, until it's long enough. I'm just going to measure it against Dan. I'm not really going to follow the pattern because I think it'll need to be longer. Because if you look at the pattern, it looks like there's only 1, 2. It looks like there's kind of 3 repeats to the armholes here. And I think I'm going to have to do more. I think I might have to do 4. I mean, you can stop at any point in the repeat. It doesn't say to stop at a certain point. It just tells you to finish on a wrong side row or something like that. You know, I'll just keep going until it's long enough. And then really, I think, you know, once... My theory was if I knit both pieces at the same time, there's not that much then left, is there, front and back wise? So, you know, fingers crossed. I'd like to have this done for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
That's kind of a target I've set myself. I can totally do it. If I was monogamous on this, I could have it done fairly quick, I think. You know, if you think that each pattern repeat takes about 3 hours, if I've got 3 more to go on each, that's 6. Times 3 hours, 18 hours it would take me to get to the armholes, and then you've just got the tops of the front, top of the back, and seam it. So it's totally doable, isn't it? I just need to kind of crack on. It's not something, because I'm not a garment knitter, let's be honest everybody, I'm not a garment knitter. It's not the first thing that I really want to pick up, but when I do, you know, I whiz through it, and I really enjoy seeing the pattern emerge. It's very nice, isn't it?
It is.
Someone saw it over Christmas. I took it to show my mum, my brother, and he said, oh, it looks like something you wear in the army, because he used to be in the army. And
Well, that's all right.
I suppose it is an army sort of colour, but that's okay, isn't it?
Well, it is okay.
And I'm doing the size, I'm hoping it's big enough.
So hold on. If it looks like you'd wear it in the army, it must look butch.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm hoping it's big enough. When I stretch it like
It's
that,
big enough.
that looks big enough, doesn't it? And I've measured it around Dan, and it does go, each piece does go a little bit beyond his side. But I went for the size 42 because your chests are 43, and you don't want it baggy, do you? So if I'd gone for the 44, that straight away gives you a bit of positive ease, doesn't it? So I thought, no, we'll go for the 42, and I can always, because it will block, won't it, a little bit, because it's 100% wool, so you will be able to block it and it'll stay blocked. And once it's blocked, my gauge is about there. So this actually would go totally with this shirt, wouldn't it? I could wear it with this shirt.
Absolutely. Look at that. It's a lovely little 1x1 rib on my next dyed sock. And by me saying next, that must mean I finished the first.
I've got a blocker.
And I have. The yarn is really lovely. We worked out where it came from. It was a gift from Marlisha and Talia.
It was.
From the Pen, Hook and Needles podcast.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, guys.
Yarn by Sock Bunny, I'm pretty sure.
It's lovely yarn.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous yarn. And look, I did a contrast too. I've invented a new thing. I followed it through from the heels. Now, I messed up the toe. You wouldn't think so looking at that. If you look at that, you think, oh, it's a toe. You might think, it's a bit short.
It's a bit skew width.
The pattern meant you to do those decreases there.
Yeah.
And I read it and I read it and I read it. And then I spoke to Kay about it. And
I didn't realise that. I didn't see the photo.
well, I didn't see the photo either.
Right.
I'm tempted to do the other one with the decrease in the right place.
Well, try it.
Because Bryony won't mind.
No, no, she won't mind.
And Bryony put this on and it fits her. And she was like, it's fine, which is really cool. I mean, it was a mess up because we thought the yarn was one way and it wasn't. So I had to decrease down further and change it a bit to make it work and make it, you know, remotely fittable for someone.
Fittable?
Yes, a new word. So I will do the toe decreases correctly on the other one.
Because they're only house socks.
Really. They are. I mean, I think they'll be pretty robust because that feels...
Well, yeah, it's yes. It's solid as a rock, that fabric.
It is.
Because it turned out to be DK knit
It will
on
stand on its own.
3mm needles with Dan's tight gauge. Let me tell you, it would stand a nuclear holocaust.
I'm thrilled to have done my first ever sock with contrast heels and toes, and I will do it again. And that actually, you know, it just gives you another positive thing, which I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it.
No.
Because I've always sort of thought, what are you changing colour for? That's just work for the sake of work. Just knit the sock and move on with the next one. No! Make something as beautiful as you possibly can. Yes. You also knit the sock.
This is the sock for Dan, the Regia one. I'm still only on the first sock, but this has kind of become my bedtime knitting, so it'll just be done when it's done. But I have made quite a lot of progress, and I've made what can only be described as nothing short of a miraculous discovery. I will show you the sock. This is where I'm up to. Oh, it's lovely yarn, isn't it?
Yes.
And I don't think it looks particularly festive. You know, it's the Regia Seasons 4-ply, and this colourway is 09414, which was the Santa Claus or Father Christmas colourway, and it's Regia Seasons. And, you know, I've not got a problem carrying on knitting it when it's not Christmas, just because it's not overly festive, I don't think. I think it's just lovely. And I used opal in natural, I believe. It's not the pure white, it's the sort of creamy colour, because that's the same as in there. I'll show you the pickup. Can you see how neat that corner is there? And it's the same on the other side. Really, really neat. I've had this bee in my bonnet for...
Years.
Well...
Yes.
Probably years, on how you can get those corners the neatest you possibly can, you know, without having holes.
We've tried hundreds of different patterns,
And I've tried
hundreds of different techniques.
I've tried it every which way, and I've done a couple of tutorials for our patrons on, you know, a couple of techniques that do close the gap, but it can distort the stitches a little bit. And I've been using that for a while, because I've just thought, well, this is the best I can do. I tried something different, and
Eureka!
I showed Dan after I'd knit sort of past it a little bit, because, you know, you have to knit a few rows past, don't you, before you can sort of look back. And I said, look at that. And he's like, well, it looks brilliant. I said, I know. So I'm going to do another tutorial for our patrons on how I did this.
The conclusive way.
And I've only tried it this once. I'm hoping it's not a fluke. You know, I can obviously remember what I did. I need to try it on another one, but I'm going to do a tutorial just so that you can see how I did it. But I just think it just is so... it's just so neat, you know?
It just shows, you know, by
just perseverance.
taking time, persevere, trying different techniques, you will eventually...
Yeah, and...
If at first you don't succeed, try and try again.
Yeah, I mean, and I always start my heel flap on a purl row. So I always knit my heel flap. If you're knitting magic loop, it's the stitches that are at the back. I know a lot of people knit the heel flaps on the front stitches. So you're starting off with like a knit one, slip one row. I never do that, because I don't like how your first row here, you can see the slip stitches sort of, you know, jumping up into the sock colour. This is when it's a contrast heel, obviously. It makes no odds when it's not a contrast heel. I just like how clean that line looks here when you start on your purl row. So slip one, purl across, turn your work, slip one, knit one. So yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased, and I'm just on the foot now. And let me take it off, and then I can show you. I've got another really cute bauble-y sort of stitch marker. These seem to be very popular at the moment, don't they? I don't know where people get them from. This was another gift from a lovely friend over Christmas, and this one's like a fluffy pom-pom. Look at that. It's fantastic. Thank you, Angie. I love it. But these are very popular, and like I say, I have no idea where people find them. But brilliant. Love it. So really enjoying that, and like I said, it's just my bedtime knitting now. So it's a Dan sock, 72 stitches, 2.5mm needles.
This is where it all goes wrong. So yesterday I published a rather explosive Dan and Lara project.
Did
in
you?
fact, it was the final Dan and Lara project. Now, I'm not shirking out of the challenge, so don't worry. My year-long sock quest, Dan's sock quest, which is now what this has become, continues. And it will be back next month, retitled as Dan's sock quest.
Oh, this is interesting.
Because a decision has been made, and a further decision has been made even on yesterday's Dan and Lara project. Because, look, this is the Uncommon Dragon sock. And I really like the stitch pattern. I think it's challenging and fun and cool, and I really like it. I do. When I started knitting this, it was pushing me to the edges of my abilities.
Oh, look. It is nice.
And now I can do it. I mean, I can absolutely nail it, which is the business. Because I made some mistakes up here, and even better,
Can't really see them.
I was
can
able
you?
to
Because-
fix the mistakes.
Right. That's why I can't see them.
So, you know, I've learnt so much from doing this sock. But look at the heel flap. Now, on one side, I mean, that doesn't look that good, does it? No, that's the wrong side. Even that doesn't look that good.
No. Well, it's doable.
But that does not look good.
No.
Right. The problem is, you're trying to fit a square peg through a round hole. Because, as we established when I cast this sock on, it doesn't fit the stitch counts needed for the different sizes. So you have to do all sorts of different jiggery-pokery to make it work. When you get to the heel, there is a stitch count, which it does fit. But when you get to the heel, right, you cast on a stitch either end.
Yeah.
And now you're casting that stitch on to enable you to do the slip stitch edging whilst being able to, on one end, you have to make a stitch.
Because the pattern continues down the heel flap.
Yeah.
That's what Dan didn't say. That stitch pattern goes all the way down the heel flap.
Yeah. So, first of all, I couldn't work out how to effectively make a stitch and it work. But then I did. And Kay helped me do that, which is brilliant. But then yesterday, I got to the end of this row and it was just, well, you've made a stitch. So how are you going to pick up the bar?
Yeah.
Because you've made a stitch. There is no bar to pick up.
No.
So, whilst in the Dan Lara project yesterday, I said I was going to finish this, and it pains me to say that I'm not. There's just no point.
Well, I cannot get my breath.
But shall I tell you what has brought me to the conclusion that I have to end this, you know, the Dan and Lara thing needs to end, is because I said to Kay the other day that I wasn't sure if I was a sock knitter.
You did?
And I've come to the conclusion that that statement was wrong.
Right.
Me trying to knit all those socks in that book is making me not like knitting socks.
I can understand.
And the reason why is if those patterns were singing off the page to me like the Samantha jumper is, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Mm-hmm. But because they're not, because it's hard work, it's not enjoyable. And what I have to do now is, now I've reached this point of, you know, potentially turning my back on socks, and that's pretty dramatic, isn't it? I don't want to turn my back on socks because they're interesting and there's stuff going on. And, you know, when I look back at, there's loads of positives to pull from this. You know, the stree are really
Lovely
good.
socks, I wear those all the time.
The checked and squared.
Yeah.
Absolutely lovely socks.
Bryony wears those.
The mouchoir, slightly weird pattern because it sort of sucks it in, you can't really see it. But I learnt loads and it was a good thing, you know, it was a great thing to knit. The dyad, you know.
You did the bootstrap as well.
Bootstrap.
Bit strange.
A bit weird, but really, really cool and an important learning process. The wheels started to come off with the Uncommon Dragon, and then they fully came off, as I spoke about this last time, with the Procrastinatrix. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to knit another pair of Stree,
Right.
another pair of checked and squared. I'm going to look at...
But you don't have to knit all these.
I want
it's
to.
Not, right, that's fine if you want to. I'm going to say don't force
Well,
yourself
I'm not
to.
voicing myself. I loved knitting the Stree. I love knitting the checked and squared. Fact. So, go back to those patterns and go, right, okay, what's the perfect heel? What's the perfect toe? So, don't necessarily do what's written on the pattern. If I've learnt something in this process, because I've tried lots of heels and toes now, which I could plug in and do.
Yeah.
But I know this, I'm doing the eye partridge heel on both.
All right.
Then,
It's a beautiful heel.
I'm going to knit some Hermione's every day.
Oh, brilliant.
And I'm going to do it in fingering weight. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I can give you a fingering weight yarn that is like a beefier fingering weight.
Is it? Have you got one ready to go?
Yeah.
Excellent. Have you?
Yeah.
I'll maybe cast that on next week then.
Right.
Cool. So I'm going to do Hermione's every day, and then I need 2 more pairs of socks. So maybe I'll do one of your ones,
I'm going to say you've never knit one of my patterns,
And maybe
you
I'll-
old meanie.
and maybe I'll pick another pair, or tell me another pair which you think
knit-
I should knit.
You should knit the pair of socks.
Tell me a pair of socks. Cool. Tell me a pair of socks which the pattern just sang to you. Your favourite pair of socks, where it just went yes. It flew off the page and every stitch was a joy. That's what I
Well,
want.
Hermione's every day, definitely.
So-
And, yeah.
Dan's Sock Quest begins today. I've got about 10 weeks. I better get cracking.
Gosh.
So what I might do is I'll get cracking on that
Right.
Hermione's every day straight away, and then as soon as I finish this, I'll maybe get cracking on the prairie socks,
Right.
and then come back to the checked and squared and the Street if time permits.
Right.
Cool. That's the end of what's on your needles.
Wow.
Yes, the moment has come. It's time for us to talk about eating horizons. Knitting horizons.
We're sat in the way, aren't we?
So, this is it. It's our first show of the year, and just like last year, we're going to talk about where we think we're going this year. We're going to set some targets and talk about things we'd like to do, maybe talk about some things we'd hope to do, and then we'll review this after 6 months on the Patreon-only podcast,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about it like we did.
See how much of a failure I've
Yes,
been again.
yes, at the end of the year. It's at the end of 2018. But this is the moment we put our line down in the sand. Would you like to go first?
Okay,
Cool.
I will go first. The first thing that I want to investigate and look into and find if there's a solution, and this came about partly as what I've just said. That didn't sound right. Partly because of the thing I was talking about with Dan's sock and the heel and just getting the perfect thing. I've got all this beautiful self-striping sock yarn. I don't generally knit it because, as you know, I always knit heel, flap and gusset. And when you do that with self-striping socks, it disrupts the, even if you do a contrast, it disrupts the stripes and, it's not perfect. And I know life isn't perfect, but I just want to achieve something that is the best I can possibly do. And this just got me thinking about the whole self-striping sock thing. And I was thinking, is there a short row heel that I can find that I will like, I will enjoy knitting, it will fit, and it will look neat and tidy, which was one of the most important criteria. It will look neat and tidy in self-striping socks.
Is a short row heel an afterthought heel?
No.
Right. So you knit it as you're knitting down the sock?
Yes.
Right. Cool.
Yes, it's not. I don't care for afterthought heels. I'll be completely honest. I've never knit one, admittedly. What you have to do with an afterthought heel is you knit a tube.
Yeah.
You basically knit a long tube with a toe on the end.
Yeah.
And then if it's a true afterthought heel, you put your needles in at the point of where your heel needs to be, and that's another thing you have to find out. You have to do some calculations to see where that will be. You put your needles in, and then you snip the yarn,
Right.
and then you knit a heel,
Right.
like a toe, basically.
Right.
You knit in the same way you would knit a toe.
Right.
I've got a couple of pair of socks that were given to me a while ago that have got afterthought heels, and I wear them, and they're okay. They're just not my favourite fit. And I don't really like the look of an afterthought heel.
So an afterthought heel, does it still have like gusset decreases?
No.
No. Right.
No. All you do is, like I say, you've got your needles back in.
Right.
And you basically knit
Sorry,
something similar to a toe.
I worded that wrong. A short row heel.
Yeah.
Does that have gusset decreases?
No.
Right. So
No.
is it still like a tube with a heel on it?
Effectively, yes.
Right. But that's what you have to do to keep the self-striping yarn right.
Yeah, because with a heel flap and gusset, you've increased the number of stitches around that area, and until you've done your gusset decreases and got back to your original number, you've got more stitches over that area, and that's what disrupts the striping on the front.
Not to flog a dead horse, but you need more stitches over that area because that's the biggest part of your foot.
Exactly so.
But moving swiftly on to your lovely self-striping.
Dan's exactly right. That is the big... I don't think anybody's foot is the same dimension over that biggest, from your heel down here up to where your leg is here.
So they all look stretched.
So they look stretched. And even sometimes, to be fair, with a heel flap and gusset, it can look a little bit stretched over that area. If you've got a particularly wide...
Like me.
Yeah, like you. Or, mine is fairly wide across there. But, I don't think anybody's got the same dimension across here as they have around their ankle. I mean, go ahead and measure your ankles and everything. But I think the dimension across that point of your foot is bigger than your circumference around your the bottom of your leg.
But everyone knows that we are heel flap and gusset.
Yes, you all know that.
Ambassadors, but we're talking now about, and I get totally self-striping. You want to be able to knit a beautiful self-striping strop with a heel that you're happy with.
I have knit, if you remember from last year, I have knit a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I'll be absolutely honest with you, I didn't care for it. And the main reason I didn't like it, I mean, I could get it on my foot, and yes, it was stretched across that area, but I could have probably lived with that. My main problem was that it's not central. I thought this was me doing it wrong, but I looked at loads of photos afterwards, and I asked a couple of people, and I don't think it does. If you've got your sock like this with your heel coming out of the front here, it's not centred. So, you've got maybe like a couple more stitches here than you've got over there. So that drove me bananas. It's just a little thing, I know, but this was just one of the things that made me just think, right, do you know what? One of my aims is to really research this whole thing of a short row heel. Can I find a short row heel that I like to knit? Will it fit my foot? Because I think if it fits my foot, it's going to pretty much fit other people's feet, because my feet are wide across that point.
So this is cool. What you're saying is, on your knitting horizon this year, is you're going to create a short row heel that you enjoy knitting and would work for self-striping socks.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I know there are lots and lots of short row heels out there already, and I know, that there are lots of different ways of doing it. And I have done, over Christmas, I've just done lots of research, I've watched lots of things, I've read lots of things, I've tried out lots of things, and I think there is a short row heel that will do the job and will be neat enough and will fit and is fun to knit.
Will fit your criteria.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, I want to do a different kind of toe as well. That's one of my aim. I want to design a sock pattern for self-striping sock yarn.
Right, so you've gone one step further, because a minute ago you were saying you're going to look for a heel.
Well, you've got to put it into a sock, haven't you?
Right.
So, to try out whether it's going to fit, you've got to knit a sock.
Right. So you're going to design a sock.
Yes.
You're going to design a self-stripe.
A pattern for a self-striping sock.
Right.
Yarn. Self-striping sock yarn with an afterthought heel.
Right.
And also a different sort of toe as well.
And the driver for all this has been the fact Well, why do you want to do this?
Because I've got all this self-striping sock
Right.
yarn, and it's really pretty.
You want to use the
And
yarn
I
you've
really
got.
want to use it.
Right.
And I'm always hesitant about using it because I don't want those stripes to be. And I know a lot of people out there would be like, I don't care whether the striping sequence goes off around the gusset, but it kind of bothers me. And if I'm going to knit something, I want to do the best
Might as well
I can
be as
possibly.
good as it can.
Yeah, and
Otherwise,
everyone's different. I completely appreciate everyone's different, and not a lot of people are. I know that a lot of people knit shorter heels, fish lip kiss heels, and are not fussed at all about it being not even and all these
so a
kinds of things.
fish lips kiss heel is not an afterthought heel.
No, it's
Right.
a short row heel. It's a short row
It's a
heel.
whole world of
Yeah.
discovery for me. This
Right.
I didn't realise. I thought it was all like afterthought things because it was all, but it's still effectively a tube with a heel in it though.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's how you construct that heel.
Right. I'm interested in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in it, and I've thought about this for a long time, and I just want to explore it fully. And like I said, I've already started work on it, so we'll see how I get on.
Yes. So that's your first
Yes.
knitting horizon.
Yes.
Yes. I think you've set yourself up quite nicely there.
Have I?
Yeah, because when you let slip that you've already started work on this.
Yes.
Yeah. Kay's knitting horizons this year are a great big fix. No, I'm only joking.
That's not very fair.
No,
is
no,
it?
it
I didn't
isn't.
start it till the new year.
I'm only joking.
It was a new year thing.
No, it's fine, and it's a good knitting horizon to have because who would have thought that you would ever be remotely interested in anything other than heel flap and gusset?
Absolutely.
So
that is a huge thing for me.
well, it is,
So,
and it's going to be
if-
interesting to see
if
it comes to fruition.
Yeah, if I can find something where I can knit all, this beautiful self-striping yarn that I've got and be happy with the fit of the sock and enjoy knitting the heel, I'll be a happy woman.
Yeah, and what an interesting pattern that will be to put out because it's unlike anything you've done before.
No, it's very unlike anything I've done before. And it's not just a plain stocking stitch sock either.
No, you're talking about designing something beautiful.
Yes. Well, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
so.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why it's a knitting horizon.
Yes.
So that's your first.
Yes.
It's now my turn. Colour work. Now, this sounds like
Colour work.
This sounds like a repeat of last year's, except it was Kay that was saying this, but except it wasn't you that was saying this. I was proposing it because you had enjoyed knitting some colour work.
I know why. What the problem was with me.
What?
I enjoyed knitting the colour work I did because it was thicker yarn.
Right,
It was worsted weight yarn.
right,
And then I tried to knit a hat using fingering weight yarn. I didn't enjoy it.
right,
That's the difference, I think, for me.
right.
I don't know why I didn't enjoy it, but there you go.
Well, I'm super interested. I spoke before about the Christmas in July sweater that I saw on Instagram. And there's loads of other ones as well that I've seen. To be honest, whenever I see a colourwork sweater, I really want to knit it. Now, I know that colourwork will be a challenge for me because I need to get my gauge right. So I think that there needs to be a plan put in place. Do you think, Kay?
Yes, you need to start small.
So, perhaps the way to go is what you have just said, and that is do a hat in thicker yarn.
Yes.
A hat thicker yarn colourwork,
Yeah.
and then move on from there.
Because a lot of colourwork patterns are in a thinner yarn. Do you know things more like a traditional fair isle?
Yeah.
They are in thinner yarns.
So I need to get my gauge right before I go about doing that.
But the jumpers that you're talking about with maybe with a
Yoke.
fair isle yoke,
Yeah.
they're usually in thicker yarns.
Right.
So they would work for you.
Cool. Well, I mean, that would be good, to be honest, because I'm still, I've obviously said earlier on in the show today that I'm going to go for my first fingering weight socks, so it would be crazy going for really thin yarn on a jumper until I'd really mastered it on a smaller project. But colour work, maybe start with a hat. So what hat should I start with? That's a key question.
Well, I have had a look around, and I mean there will be some patterns, but again, a lot of colourwork hats are sort of 4-ply fingering weight, so
Right.
we just need to investigate it a bit further and find something.
I mean, I suppose I could do that one that you did.
Well, you could, There's more involved in that, though.
It's got cables and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
I
cables.
enjoy that. But that would be a good one. I really want one of those in pink, and I've got the yarn.
Was the pattern clear?
Yeah, it was Susan B. Anderson. Split back snowflake hat. And you don't need to do the split back.
Right.
Within the pattern, there's a pattern for just a beanie.
Right.
You could do that.
Okay.
Because that's just a colourwork panel around here.
Right. Has it still got the cables?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. That might suit you better anyway,
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's very cute, that split back one, yeah.
But you'd like the split back one?
I kind of would. I mean, yeah, I kind of would, but...
Couldn't I just knit it around and then steek it?
Not really.
I need to start in the right place so I don't put myself in a position where...
Yeah.
Because I think the worrying thing is when you start out on a new sort of venture, a new journey, is if you take a wrong step, it can be sort of cataclysmic mentally. Because you might shut off something. The end game is, I would like to think that by the time I finish knitting, because I think I will have the Samantha sweater done by the summer.
Right.
Because I'm making great progress there. I mean, I'm easily going twice as fast as what I was on the Irish coffee.
I'd say so, yeah.
So the Irish coffee took me, till Christmas, it took me 11 months.
I mean, we've got long sleeves with this one, and it's bottom up, so it's a different construction, so that'll take a bit longer to kind of think about and get your head around and stuff.
But, I'd like to think that by the time I finish knitting the Samantha, I'd be ready to have a go at knitting a yoked jumper with colourwork.
Right, so you want to just have a go at a hat before then, obviously.
Yeah, I need to get cracking with that, don't I, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll have a look at that pattern for you.
So the first stage in my colourwork knitting horizon is getting a hat cast on and seeing where I go with it. And hopefully by the end of the year, for Christmas, I should do the Christmas in July sweater then, shouldn't I?
I don't know what that one is he's talking about.
Well, it's beautiful.
Right, I'm sure
and it's called Christmas in July, and if I start it...
Oh, in July.
What if I start it in July and it's ready for Christmas?
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Maybe next Christmas. But who knows if it's colourwork. So that is my first knitting horizon. Colourwork, baby. Let's do this. Okay, what's your next knitting horizon? Right.
This is going to be a real challenge. So, for Christmas, I got this.
How exciting.
You've probably seen this on a lot of podcasts, and I've longed for this book since it only came out in November, I think, but it was on Amazon for way before then. I knew about it way before then. And Dan said, well, I'll get it you for Christmas. It then went out of stock on Amazon. It just wasn't there, was it? But you managed to find it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yay, you managed to find it somewhere else for me, so I did get it for Christmas. So one of my knitting horizons is to study this book, get my head around it, and somehow incorporate one of the stitch patterns or several of the stitch patterns into a design. It's mind-boggling. I'll just open.
Does it have any patterns in it, or is it just all?
No, there are a few patterns.
Right.
There are, one or two patterns sort of sprinkled through, but I'll just open it at a page.
Wow.
I mean, look. And it's like this the whole way through. You could spend hours. And the thing with it is, the thing I've discovered is, look at it.
That chart looks like the design for a spaceship.
Yeah, I know. It's all charted. This is why I say I've got to get my head around it because, it's charts, everyone. Look, it's just look how beautiful they all are. And there's pages and pages and pages of it. It's amazing. The thing with Japanese knitting, and I didn't realise this, and it says it at the beginning somewhere, is that all of the symbols are generic in Japan, apparently. That, a symbol means the same thing everywhere. So it gives a key to everything. Look at the key. Look. The key to all the stitches is at the beginning. There's pages of it. And then, obviously, by the side of... look at these ones.
Goodness gracious. That's crazy.
But what you could do with something like that is, if you liked a section of it, you could just take out that section.
Yeah.
And repeat it and plop that into a shawl pattern or something. I say plop. That makes it sounding really easy. It's well, I don't think I'd find it easy. But, you know, you need to refer back to the beginning to then work out what each of these symbols means. I mean, you literally could spend hours just looking through it. I mean, there's tons of twisted stitches and beautiful lace, and there's even tons of edgings. Look at all the edgings. Oh, it's just fabulous. You know, talk about inspiration really for a designer. It's unbelievable. Rather than it just sitting on a shelf, because I think for a lot of people you would probably just get it and you think, whoa, and stick it on a shelf. I don't want to do that. I really want to have it as a resource.
What's so brilliant about this is rather than it being wordy, it's just getting straight to business.
It's absolutely not, not wordy at all.
It's just getting down to business, and that's what I like. And what jumps out to me about this is,
They're all just beautiful, aren't they?
This is like, I mean, I suppose if you were an artist, this would be like your palette of colours.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And it's how you select the right colours and then how you paint them on the canvas to make them beautiful. Or as a musician, each one of these are the chords or the scales, and it's how you then take these and put them together to create a beautiful piece of music. It's like the ultimate way of supercharging your vocabulary. Your knitting vocabulary.
And there's at the back as well, there's lots of sort of instructional bits on how to do certain stitches, which I think is really great. It's all in English, obviously, it's all been translated. It's just completely, there isn't a single, that's gorgeous. There isn't a single stitch pattern in it that I don't look at and think, oh my word. It's fantastic. So even actually if you had this just as a coffee table book, with no intention of actually using it for anything.
It's like a car magazine for like supercars.
Well, it kind of is. It's really just worth having just to look through. It just gives me such an enormous amount of joy just looking through it.
So your second knitting
that's
horizon.
My second knitting horizon.
Is you're going to broaden your knitting vocabulary and create and aim to create a design from what you learn from the Japanese Stitch Dictionary.
Yes.
Excellent. So my second knitting horizon is most certainly garments, and I know that sounds like a bit of a cheat because, of course,
it's a complete cheat. You said it's your favourite thing to do.
But the question is this: what is on the horizon?
I think you're a garment knitter. Personally.
And that's
what my gut is telling me.
That is the question,
and that's completely cool with me.
That's the question that I believe really needs answering. I've knit one garment, I've started a second one, I'm eyeing up a colour work garment. Am I a garment knitter or not? Because I think you should know, shouldn't you? You should establish whether you are or whether you aren't. And if you are, then go for it with abandon. If you're sort of on the fence for ages, you might dabble a little bit, do a little bit here and there, and never really take the bull by the horns. And I'm one for taking the bull by the horns and properly getting on with it. So I want to know, by the end of this year, I want to know, am I a garment knitter? Like you, I think that I am a garment knitter.
It'd be nice actually, because we go away at the beginning of August, if you could take a nice new garment with you to work on while we're away.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully it might be the Christmas in July. And there my two knitting horizons are coming together, because right now with the colour work I'm going to cast on and I'm going to see, with hats and small items, can I get my gauge right and get it working? And then, will those two horizons collide and then, allow me to cast on the Christmas in July and knit that for you? Who knows? But by the end of this year, I want to know, am I a garment knitter or not? That's my second horizon.
Brilliant.
We're on to your third.
The last of my knitting horizons, and this again is something actually I spoke about on the last episode, and I haven't made a start on it yet. Well, I've not started knitting on this horizon yet. That sounds wrong. You know what I mean. But I have started gathering things together, and that is the Mittmas sort of project that I mentioned last episode, where I said that I wanted to knit as many pairs of mittens, fingerless mittens, as I can for Christmas gifts for this coming Christmas. Now, what I did day before yesterday was I actually went through all of my stash and had a bit of a clear out, reorganise. And as I was going through it, I was taking out skeins of yarn that I wanted to use to make mittens. So I've now got a little collection. Not that much. This was really interesting. Most of my stash is fingering weight yarn. Whether that be sock yarn, I've got mountains of Opal and other branded sock yarn, or hand-dyed yarn. It's mainly fingering. I actually haven't got that much in sort of DK and worsted, and that's really the weights that I want to knit the mittens in. But what I did think was that I could take some of my hand-dyed fingering weight and double it, and that would be a really great use then for it. So I'm going to do that and, you know, get through that way, because I want to avoid buying any if I can. So I'm just going to see how far I can get with what I've pulled out so far. So I just want to work on those, and to aid me in the process of that, I want to design this. I'm talking a lot about designing, aren't I? And actually that's really, really strange, because I said to you last year that I wanted to really work on the design side of things this year, and all of my knitting horizons are design orientated, and that's a subconscious thing. But I want to design a fingerless mitt pattern, and I'm going to put it out as a tutorial series for the patrons.
Like you did.
Like I did
with the
for
socks.
the snowfall socks, the bulky weight socks that I did, which everyone really enjoyed. And there was one lady, I can't remember who it was, she knit about 6 pairs of them as Christmas gifts.
So is this like a companion? Is this like...
Yeah.
If you've got the socks, you need the mittens to go with it?
I suppose so, yeah. So it'll be a DK or worsted weight pair of fingerless mitts. It'll have some kind of design on the hand, just to make it interesting to knit and be pretty. And and then that will help me as well, because I will have knit at least one pair, probably, you know, I'll do more. I usually do more than one sample for a design when it's a smaller item like that.
What I like about that is, you know, your mission was to knit lots of mittens as Christmas gifts. Yeah. Well, you're now turning that, rather than it being a quantity-driven process, you've turned it into something creative and exciting, and also you've spread in the love by, you know, saying
it'll be
I'm going to design something that will put out as a tutorial series. So I like that horizon. What is my final knitting horizon? Well,
I don't know.
It's a controversial one. This
is it?
Yes, it is. It's very controversial. It's double knitting.
Right.
I've made a couple of notes because I've been thinking a lot about this. Where am I actually going with double knitting? What do I enjoy about double knitting? Why am I double knitting? Now,
you really enjoy it.
I'm fascinated by many of the elements of double knitting. For example, I'm absolutely fascinated, and I want to master the twin colour invisible alternating cast on.
Good heavens.
It's mad. It is an insane cast on, but it's brilliant. And I'm terrible at it. I've done it once, and I think
and you twisted it. There was that hat, wasn't
I twisted it. I didn't twist it on the needles.
No.
I twisted it on the changeover.
Oh, right.
But I want to master that. I really, really want to master that. The challenge, though, that you have with double knitting is, or that I have with double knitting is, projects tend to take a while. But I suppose the hat didn't take a while.
No, that's a much smaller project than your scarf, isn't it? Scarves take forever.
But then the interesting question is, for the effort that you put in, the other thing that I do, and this is controversial because I love the fabric it creates. I love the process. I love everything about double knitting. I love. But how wearable is it? I need to find... I mean, that scarf, when it's finished, will definitely be wearable.
Oh, yeah, because you'll see the front and the back at the same time.
But it's they really are a statement. You know, those designs... double knitting as an art form is a real statement. It's the type of thing, and I know we've said this before, that you would put up on the wall.
Yeah.
It's like a piece of art. And I think I want to know, because I'm conscious of the fact that I've been knitting that piano number 1 all through last year. And if you don't keep moving forward, you either stagnate or move backwards. And I'm worried with my double knitting that I'm not moving forward. I'm worried
But
that I'm
you
not
don't
moving
always
forward.
have to be moving forward to enjoy something, do you?
The problem with double knitting is the cast-ons are so challenging.
Yeah.
If you know, I've cast on for a double knitting project 3 times.
Right.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, no.
You know, my point is, I've got to nail the fundamentals, and I don't feel like I am. I feel like I'm just going through the motions. It's a bit
But
like
you've totally cracked the actual knitting of the fabric.
I can
It's
knit.
perfect.
I can knit double knitting. I can do it. There's no challenge there at all. But there is a challenge in casting on.
Right.
There is a challenge still to an extent when you're knitting flat in
The ends.
the ends.
Yeah.
But I've got that down, and I know what I'm looking for, and I know when there's an issue. But I'm concerned I cannot go through this year just continuing knitting
Right.
that piano number 1.
Oh, right.
I have to do something else too.
Oh, right, okay.
Because if I don't, I'm worried that by the end of this year,
You'll just be bored of it.
yes,
Right.
I think I might be a little
And the
bored.
reason it's taking longer as well is because you're effectively knitting a scarf twice, aren't you? Then you're not casting on as often, are
No,
you?
I think
So
this
you're
year.
not getting as much practice as you would do normally.
No, I would love to say I need to do 2.
I wonder if there's something small then.
Yeah,
that-
well, there is. You see, I could try. I tried, and maybe I should do this because I know the vanishing point pattern, and I do really like it.
It was just too small.
Yeah, it was. So I need to find a double knitting, probably a hat. But the bottom line is, 3rd knitting horizon, double knitting. This year, I have to move forward with it because if I don't, it's going to start to move backwards, and I'm worried it will become something that I dabble in rather
Right.
than something that I properly do. So I need a plan, and I'm going to develop a plan and definitely knit another product.
Right.
That is the end of our Knitting Horizons. What are yours? Let's talk about it in the Knitting Horizons thread.
Yes.
Because we'd love to know what's on the horizon for you. And if you put a marker down in that thread, then we can review it, can't we? We can review yours, you can review ours, and see where
I'm
we've
going
got
to keep
to.
mine written down. I know where I'm going to write them.
Put them in the thread too.
No, I'll write them in there.
Yes, cool.
I'll talk about that in a bit.
It's time for us to find out, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
Yay! I do have a couple of things.
Cool.
I did work really hard.
You have 3 things.
I do towards the sort of back end of last year, just to get a few things off my needles, to try and get down to the smallest number of projects as I possibly could by the end of the year, and I did pretty well actually. I think I've got about 5 things on the go at the minute, something like that, which is not bad considering how many I did have not long before that. But I finished a few things. I'll just pop these on the blocker. I won't say that this is a cheat because Dan suggested that I do this, and I was very happy to take him up on that suggestion.
Well, it's not a cheat. They look right.
Yeah, I finished 2 socks, and Dan said, well, why don't you just pair those together rather than knit the others? Because they seem to go really well together, and they're both themed around Christmas in one way or another, but I'll show you. One is the Figgy pudding sock that I finished. Oh, it's so pretty. And, this colourway was so popular. I'm going to dye some more of this up in July, Christmas in July. So this will be coming back in July. It's just so pretty. And I did do the rounded toe on this one. Can you see? It's a bit more difficult to see in variegated yarn. So I finished that one. And then I also finished the dark side and the light sock, which is knit exactly the same way and with the same toe. So Dan said, well, why don't you just pair them together and have a pair? Because they were both Christmas themed, Figgy pudding, and then this film was out at Christmas.
I think it's more the fact that
went to
the
see
way
it
that
at
the
Christmas.
colourways are dyed, they look
kind of similar. It is
Similar
2
patterns.
slightly different techniques that I used, but similar. This one produces more of a variegated. This one is more of a speckly variegated. I don't know if you can tell the difference. The techniques are just slightly different, but they do kind of go together. So that's what I've done. This is like a Christmas pair of socks, and I'll probably give these to Bryony actually, because Star Wars theme. She loved the Star Wars film, The Last Jedi. She absolutely loved it, didn't she?
Yes.
Which was so lovely to see. So I'll probably give these to Bryony. So that's the first thing that I finished.
Cool. What's next?
I finished a hat. I
Well.
should pop it on, actually. I finished the sockhead hat, finally. I cast this on in May last year. I mean, that's just despicable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it was just my bedtime knitting, and I didn't always knit on it because I had it in my bag for a while and didn't really work on it. But it's the sockhead hat out of the Misty Alpacas in the Tilt-A-Whirl colourway. Look at the top. Look how cool the top is. And I didn't knit this as long as the pattern. I never do for my sockhead hats. So it's got a bit of slouch, you can see, but not, not a whole lot. I did think about putting on a pom-pom, then decided didn't really need one. So I think it's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's got alpaca in it, so it'll be quite warm. Really pretty. It's quite festive colours, actually.
And there's a third thing.
And there is a third thing. So
What
that's
else
finished.
is off your needles?
I finished another blanket block. Look at me go. Let's get this the right way around. Yes, it's that way around. So this is the Death on the Nile blanket block, all finished. I think I just started the borders last time I showed it to you. So it's now all bordered and finished and ready to be added in. So I'm not sure what the next one I'm going to do is. And as I said before, this is a project. I really love this project for this because I've finished a block and I now don't really feel like I've got something on the needle still, even though I obviously have. I think this is my 9th block. And I think I decided 3, 6, 9, I think it needs to be 12. I think it's 3 by 4. I think that's what I thought. Or was it 4 by... Oh, I can't remember. In any case, this is my 9th block, I believe. All done.
Cool.
So, 3 things. That's not bad, is
That's
it? Not
amazing.
bad.
What a great start. It's time for our very first Any Bits of 2018.
Endy bits.
And before we get to all the big prizes, let's just go through a few important little things.
Ooh.
Like, for example, the next pop.
Ah.
So the next patron-only podcast is going to be on the 21st of January. It will be in a brand new location, which we think you're going to love. It has a very special theme, and I can't tell you what it is because it's a surprise.
Have we spoke about it?
Yes, and that theme is actually going to launch a brand new 12-part
Yes,
patron-only series.
I know what it is.
Which you are going to adore.
You are.
So
You are.
do not miss the 21st of January at 2 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, live in the patrons only Facebook group.
Yes.
And then within 48 hours of that, a recording will be published on Patreon that
Yes.
you can that then is accessible to all patrons. So
It's super fun. I love doing pop because it's
and this one in particular.
interactive, and we chat to people as we're doing it, and it's just great. We really, really love it.
But it's the theme that you just
You
don't
are,
do
you
not
are.
miss it.
You are going to love it.
The next issue, the first issue of 2018 of our magazine Knitability, which, hold everything, there is going to be, fingers crossed,
Yeah.
a little show diary of Vogue Knitting Live.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Who's that? You've not told me.
Shh, say nothing at casual. Nice surprise.
Wow.
Vogue Knitting Live show diary.
I just suddenly panicked thinking, oh my lord, are we going to New York? And I didn't know.
So there'll be a show diary with pictures and a lovely little report of Vogue Knitting Live. We did our first show diary in the last issue, which was brilliant. And this time, that was a show in England. This time we've got a show in America. And nice big show, Vogue Knitting Live.
Huge. It's huge, isn't it?
So that should be really good. That's really exciting. But also some really great articles from some unbelievably cool people, a great shop focus. And yeah, so excited about that. And that's coming out next week. It's coming out on the 19th of January.
Cool.
The Never Gonna Knit You Up Cal has now begun.
Yes.
Yes. And that is...
There's a chatter thread in the Ravelry group, and there's an FO thread in the Ravelry group.
And that's open to everybody.
Yep, everyone.
So any podcast viewer, please come and join in
Yeah.
with our Never Gonna Knit You Up Cal.
Yeah.
And what's the point of it? You're knitting
The
yarn.
point is you are knitting at least one skein from your stash that's a precious skein of yarn that you've hoarded for a while, and it's like, oh, it's too lovely to knit. We want you just to knit those yarns. Life is too short to just hoard that yarn. You know, we bought it because we loved it and we should be knitting it.
And lots of people have asked for a second verse of Never Gonna Knit You
No.
Up. And I just wonder if
It's a good idea.
we're nine episodes away from a certain landmark.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
perhaps
We'll save it for then.
we should save it for then. Perhaps we should have a few little surprises around Never Gonna Knit You Up.
Right.
So Never Gonna Knit You Up, Cal, is happening now. And when does that finish?
End of February.
Cool.
Yeah.
Climb Every Mountain, Cal, is now underway.
Yeah, again, there's 2 threads on Ravelry, a chatter thread and an FO thread. And in the chatter thread, all of the distances are listed for all the different kind of items. So that's in the chatter thread. And then there's an FO thread where you can post your items.
Cool. And the Climb Every Mountain, Cal, is open to our podcast patrons, and it's our year-long challenge. Of course, the Climb Every Mountain run/walk is open to anyone who wants to get involved. Because, you know, getting up and active at this time of year, and really all through the year, is unbelievably important. It keeps me absolutely sane. So please, if you want to get involved with that, send me a message and I can either add you to the walking team or to the running team. I think it's time.
Can I just briefly mention dyeing, yarn dyeing?
Yes.
I had a little break over December just because I don't like posting yarn in December. But I have started dyeing again. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be having just a normal Etsy shop update this Saturday. Which, if you're watching this straight away, then
Tomorrow.
Yes, it'll be tomorrow because this comes out on Friday. But I will put a post up on Instagram just to confirm that I'm going to be doing that. And then I'm starting a patron yarn series. Patrons know about this, they've had information about it. At the end of this month is a 3-month patron yarn series. I did this with the Harry Potter yarn last year and it was really popular. So this year for 3 months, so January, February, March, it's Agatha Christie. Novels, movies, adaptations. And I'll tell you now, the first movie is based on a book that was turned into like a TV movie, and I'm going to be dyeing up a colourway based on Murder in Mesopotamia. It's one of my favourites, I love it. So that's the theme of the first colourway, which patrons again know when that update is going to be. It's towards the end of January. But what I did do the other day, just to sort of get myself back into dyeing, was I just played around with some minis, and I've dyed up 5 different colours of minis that I'm going to put into a little set. It was these ones. Oh, they're so pretty. Look at that pink. It's just totally like neon blowing out. Let me put it next to... Oh, that nearly went in a tea. It didn't. Let me put it next to the blue. It might not be so blowy out. You know, it still is. I just had some fun with colour, and I just sort of threw it about and see what came out. And they all came out really beautiful. So what I'm going to start doing just for fun is I'm going to put up some mini skeins like this in the shop, but I'm going to call them a little bit of what you fancy. So each time I do them, they could be the same as the last time I did them, or they could be different. So there'll be a picture of what you're going to get, obviously, but they're not set sort of colours. It'll always be called a little bit of what you fancy, but then it's just whatever I fancy dyeing that particular session. So these are the ones that are going to be in the shop this time. So yeah, so I'm getting back into dyeing, and I'll keep you posted on updates and things.
So just keep your eyes on Kay's Instagram feed for
that's the best
updates
place.
On general Etsy shop updates.
Yes.
Patrons, we will always keep you updated on Patreon, and I put out an email. Well, I put out a post earlier this week giving you all the key dates for what's coming up over the next month, and there's lots. So now it's time for the prize draws.
Wow.
Well, you've done the prize draws. You're just announcing the winners.
Yes, there's a lot, so I've drawn them already.
So if you didn't enter in any of these prize draws, then please feel free to go and have a lovely knit and a cup of tea, and we'll see you in 2 weeks from now. If you were involved with the toy Cal, the Merry Mittmas Cal, or the Fog Along, then stick around because you might have won something.
Okay, so I've gathered everything around me. Firstly, we're going to do the toy knit along. So for that, we had entries up to number 209.
Wow.
So it was from 2 to 209. And the first prize is a pattern from lovely Melissa. That's Melia Bella. I think you all know Melissa on Instagram and, you know, podcasts, etc. So she's donated one of her patterns. And the winner of that was number 2. Number 2? When does that ever happen?
Well, it did.
I couldn't believe it. And number 2 was the lovely Talia, Franciscan Gypsy, she is,
And
on
of course,
Ravelry.
they were hosting the toy calendar.
They were hosting the toy cal in their thread.
Just desserts.
Well, just fantastic. So Talia, I will arrange, you don't need to do anything, I'll arrange with Melissa to get the pattern that she donated. It's a beautiful sock pattern over to you on Ravelry. So fantastic.
Beautiful.
Next winner is another pattern from lovely John Glenn, who is Beardy Shield. I struggle saying your name, John, on Ravelry and Instagram. So he's donated one of his patterns, and the winner for that was number 28, and that was Kate. It's KJSMIT, Kate Schmidt, I think it is. 4, so KJSMIT 4. So Kate, you've won that pattern from John. So again, I will let John know that you've won it, and he will send it over to you on Ravelry. So yay! Right, so winner number 3, this is for Skein of Yarn, and it's the paint box yarns, which I spoke about recently, in this lovely sort of multicolours. It's the Fair Isle Arcade, and the winner of this was number 80. And that's Heidi in Florida, and she is Packy Knits 1 on Ravelry. So Heidi, you've won that lovely skein. So I'll say this now, anybody that wins a prize that I have to post to you, would you mind just sending me a message on either Ravelry private message, or you can send it on Instagram, I don't mind. Just giving me your full name and your address, and I'll get your prizes posted out to you. So I'm saying that now so I don't have to say it after each one. So that's that one. And then the last one for the toy knit along was, it's the minis from me. So there's 4 minis in these lovely sort of tonal colours. 20 grams each, all on a sparkle base. So they were won by number 138, and that's Sarah in the UK. She's Lil Angels G2 on Ravelry. So Sarah, I know Sarah, could you just remind me again of your address, and I'll get those sent out to you. Next one, Mary Mittmas, the podcast patron knit along. So we had 282 entries for this, which is fantastic. So it's 2 to 282. So again, we had a pattern from Melissa and a pattern from John. So the pattern from Melissa, that was won by number 5. Again, a really early number, which is brilliant. And that was Sherry. She's Woolly Kind Knits, and she's in Washington. So Sherry, you've won a pattern from Melissa, and again, I'll get her to send that through to you on Ravelry. Next winner was, again, another pattern from John from BD Shield, and the winner for that is number 56. And this person didn't have their actual name on Ravelry, but their Ravelry name is spelt Pokdej. Pokdej. And she's in British Columbia, in Canada. So again, I will get John to send you through that pattern on Ravelry.
Cool.
The next winner is this wonderful bag from Whimsy Stitches. If you remember, he sent us this fantastic bag, from lovely Rick. And I love his business card. He says he's chief zoologist. And that's fantastic. So a lovely project bag. And the winner of that one is number 221. And that used to be the bus number that I used to catch to school. 221, and that's Jen. She's Pearl Girl Jen on Ravelry, and she's in Maryland. So Jen, that's yours. Send me a message with your address. And then the last winner for the Merry Mittmas is Hot Socks. Let me get the right one. Here it is. It's 2 skeins of Hot Socks Grundle colour. Yeah, Hot Socks. I was just looking to see. It's Hot Socks colour, this one. And the winner for this, lovely stripy yarn, is number 215, and that's Kelly in New York. She's Knit Quilt Stitch on Ravelry. So Kelly, This is yours. Get in touch with me. So that's all the winners for the Merry Mittmas.
Yay, well done, everybody.
So now it's the fog along. So there's an extra prize in with this, just because it's been a year-long knit along. We had an awful lot of entries, so I've actually put in an extra prize. So we've got from 2 to 1,786.
Well done, everybody.
And what I will say also on that is a high number of that 1,786 were multiple entries. So, for example, you know, Sarah Hepworth would put in everything she'd knit in a month. So there was a whole load. So there was a lot more than that actual physical things knit, which was fantastic. So the first winner is for these beautiful minis. Oh, these are gorgeous, from the Yarn Lab UK, which were donated. Thank you so much. These were won by number 353, and that's Jamie. It's Jamie Walcott in Alabama.
Hi, Dexter. That's her husband.
Oh, is it?
Yes, Dexter Walcott.
Excellent. So
Cool.
Jamie, you've won these. Get in touch with me. The next one is a bag from So Cozy Knits.
Beautiful.
A lovely bag. This is the next prize. This was won by number 267, and that's Kimberly in California. She's destined to knit on Ravelry. Kimberly, that's yours. Well done. The next one, this is a little prize from me. I've put together a little group of yarn. It's the Jamieson & Smith 2-ply jumper weight.
Ah, yes.
Brilliant for colour work, and you can see there's 2 skeins of the darker colour, 1 of the light. So I thought this is brilliant for a hat project, or, you know, any smaller sort of colour work project. So that's the next prize, and that was won by number 1711, and that's Madeline. It's Madeline Windsor in Switzerland. So we know Madeline. So Madeline, that's yours. So that's going to Switzerland. How exciting!
Wow.
So again, let me know your address. And then the last. Oh no, sorry, I've missed one. It's not the last one. And then the next one, it's some more Hot Socks. This is Hot Socks Diamond in these lovely colours, sort of autumnal looking colours. So this has been won by number 1130, and that's Jessamine. Jessamine in Texas. She's knitted towel. She does a podcast, a really lovely podcast. So Jessamine, they're yours if you'd like to get in touch with me. And then the last one, and this is 2 skeins of yarn that I've dyed, and it's a one-of-a-kind colourway. I was playing around with kind of Valentine's colourways, and I dyed up this really pretty, oh gosh, it looks lovely actually on screen. It's different shades of reds and pinks and oranges, and then over-dyed with a little bit of black. Sort of, you can see the over-dyed spots. Really, really pretty. So there's 2 skeins of that for a nice big shawl maybe. It's on my Midland base, which is an 80/20 superwash BFL nylon fingering weight. So 2 skeins. And the winner of these is number 1456. And again, it's a lady that I know very well, and I'm going to mispronounce your name, and I'm so sorry. But it's Asa in Norway. AASE. I'm so sorry. I know I'm saying that wrong, I'm sure. So Asa, actually, I've got I'll have your address, but just contact me just to let me know that you've seen this, and then I'll get those sent out to you. So they're beautiful. I might have to dye this up now. I've seen it on screen. It looks really lovely. I did make a note of it, so I think that looks really pretty on screen actually. So there we go. Yes.
We're now going to watch the box set of Father Ted.
Oh, it's a horror. It's a horror.
Look at those cows, Ted.
This one is small. This one is far away.
Have you seen Father Ted? It's bananas. It's so funny.
It is bananas, and I've actually been to the house that Father Ted was filmed, you know, the outside of the house that it was filmed at, because it was very close to where my mum used to live in Ireland.
Isn't that Victor Meldrew from One Foot in the Grave?
And I've been there. They were at some caves.
Right.
Aylwee Caves. I'm sure that's where they were, and I've been there as well.
I know what you should do, Ted. You should go over and say...
He'd love that.
I don't believe it.
It's brilliant. You should.
And the knitters finished on how many miles? No, yeah, the knitters.
Yes. So the fog along, we ended I did say where I thought we ended actually on Instagram, but what happened was Sarah Hepworth then put in her projects for December right on the last day, so that took us much further on. So we actually ended on 64,608 miles, and we were in New York
For the second time.
for the second time.
Yes.
We've been there before, so it's a bit old hat now, isn't it?
Second visit.
Us knitters. But we ended
Second
in New
visit.
York. So
Nice.
how fantastic. We can all have a lovely knees up in New York.
And the runners finished in Anchorage,
Right.
and they were on 26,231 miles.
Brilliant.
But of course,
Fantastic.
this year...
It's been such a brilliant year.
It's been amazing.
Fantastic.
This year, though, of course, as we know, it's all about climbing mountains, so
Yes.
it's all about feet.
It's now feet,
Yes.
not miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone said actually, wouldn't it be funny if a pair of socks was 2 feet? It wasn't. It was more than that.
Should have made it that.
I know. I think it was 9 feet or something. Oh, I can't even remember how much it was, but it was worthy of more than 2 feet. A pair of socks.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, thank you so much for watching our first show.
Wow,
We have
that was
set
a lot.
out our knitting horizons, and it's going to be fun to see where we get to.
Yes.
Next time, we will be doing our final bucket list before in episode 93. So 92, our final bucket list proposals, and then in 93, that's when we'll be picking one of
Right.
our bucket list items to do in 2018. So that'll be fun. And
Gosh,
also
wow.
next time, we have a very, very special down the world food aisle.
Oh,
We have
gosh.
food which comes
This
with
is
its
amazing.
own cooker.
This is amazing.
We're not going to say too much at all, but it's about as exciting as it gets. This is hot food which will
I couldn't
prepare
believe
itself.
it when I opened this parcel and realised what it was. At first I was like, what on earth is this? And then I was like, I know what this is. And I was completely blown away.
Do
and
not miss it. We just
Yeah.
hope it tastes good.
We're a bit worried it's going to taste a bit squiffy. But you'll be fascinated by it, and I'm fascinated by it.
I'm fascinated on
and-
what we're going to see when we open the packet.
Yeah, and I asked the person who sent it if we could use it on the podcast, and she said, yeah, do whatever you want. So,
So don't miss it.
yeah,
Cool.
brilliant.
So thank you so much for watching. We will see you in 2 weeks for episode
I've
92.
been playing with these minis the whole time. It's so distracting. I'm sorry.
Patrons, get ready next week for a brand new tutorial series from Kay. And also get ready for Knitability.
Yeah.
And so much exciting things happening. So 2018 has started. So I
Yes.
hope you have a really great year.
Yes.
And have a really great 2 weeks. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for episode 92. Bye.
Bye.
Who's it sitting and knitting? It's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or